Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. If you are joining me live, and if you're not joining me live, thanks for watching my video. I am Dr. Annette Feravich with Healthy Mind, Body, Spirit, and you can find me on the internet at www.healthymindbodyspirit.net. I think I've got the internet now. That's the one I want up there. So, www.healthymindbodyspirit.net. And I want to make just a few adjustments here. So, I'm going to widen up that video over there and or that slide there. Today, we're talking about transformation. I think maybe what I want to do is put that on the other side, don't I? Because who likes looking at those bookshelves? Well, suppose I could put my head in the way, right? Yeah. Let's see. That looked pretty good when I was chewing that gum, didn't it? That's from my gum chewing days in Chicago. We called it Chicago. Okay, I'm getting closer. We're going to go with this. Okay, thanks for joining me again. I'm saying that again. Not that you're joining me again. Maybe you're joining me for the first time. Let's see. I don't even know. Anyone in my chat? No, nobody's in my chat. What's going on? Okay, yeah. I got to toss my gum away. I'm sorry, because that just, I'm looking like I'll be right back. Okay, which side did we decide on? I forgot. I think we decided on this side, didn't we? As if we're a team and we're all deciding together. No, I think I just switched it, didn't I? I'm not sure. Let me see. Well, I'm not blasting your ears out, and I'm getting a little bit, not faster with meeting up with you guys, but a little bit faster with getting everything on board here. Let's be a little modest, shall we? Okay. Or not. All right. So, this is Dr. Annette Feravich. Thank you for joining me if you're joining me. Let's go ahead and get moving. And one of the reasons why I want to get moving here a little bit as I adjust my lighting and things like that is because it's a beautiful sunny day here in Michigan. And when we have beautiful sunny days in Michigan, I like to get outside. So, vitamin D is important. Vitamin D is associated with every risk factor that we've seen related to the COVID virus. We know that as we begin to, the summertime, we're going to see, hopefully, numbers move down again, right? So, looks like things might be going in a favorable direction. My yeah, more than my gut feeling is that, yeah, it is for sure going in a favorable direction. And what we're going to talk about here today, though, and get outside. Anyway, so get outside and get your vitamin D, take a walk, do something that really gets you healthy. Remember that this is part 2 of our series, and our series is on you know what, I'm going to pop that in there a little bit later on because I really want to get moving along. Our series, part 2, is on healthy minds, right? And part 1 was on healthy bodies. So I'm really hoping that you have taken a look at some of my videos. They'll be edited over the summertime when I have a little bit more downtime from my teaching, right? And as you know, I teach at a local university who is neither associated with or affiliated or endorses what I talk about here. They don't know, they know I do this, but that's about all that they know, right? Because this is my baby. All right. So, and we are talking about a really great topic, I think, today, which is on transformation. And so we want to take a look at the agenda today then. So where is this all fitting in, first of all? And as I said, this is part 2 of our series, right? Part 1 was on a healthy body. And so take a look at all of those. I had a series of 8 videos to help you get in better shape, all part of my series, A Healthy New You in 2022. I'm looking at something to see if it doesn't even matter though. I don't know why I do sometimes I do that, just kind of switch my videos around, and someday, hopefully in the very near future, that person will come along and switch my videos for me at, hey, switch a video. We call those PowerPoints. Okay. So part 2 and part 2, let me come back here, is a healthy mind. And you can see there that we have got, actually today is our last episode. I'll probably do some wrapping up next week as we roll into a healthy spirit, because that's really what transformation is about. But I want you to kind of have an understanding of what transformation is about relative to, I'm going to go back to that other slide, actually, for video purposes. So we want to give you a perspective of what transformation is all about. Can't stand that. I got to do lighting expertise over here, folks. But that's what we needed. See what we needed there? And the other one to not be glaring off of my forehead. Hold on one second. I'm gonna have to move my chair back because that is just like a glaring sun shining on my face. And since I don't have makeup over here to tone down that glare, the powder to tone down that glare, I gotta back up a little bit. Well, look at that. Had to move up. Leave that alone. All right, so master of lighting again. But I gotta move up. Without hopefully knocking anything over. I think that's okay. I'm gonna stay up here though. Where are you wiggling? What's that? Here. I know you guys can see that for sure. All right. So it looks like we might not need this one. Yeah, would you believe we kind of did? Well, that's a lot better, isn't it? I got myself all disheveled over here, though. I'm going to do this. Okay, so I'm back. Every time I think about that, I think about Seth Meyers doing his little Shady's back bit, which is pretty funny. So check him out. It's kind of where I get my news from. Thanks, Seth Meyers. Or Meyer, whatever your last name is. I love your show. Corrections is awesome. Oh, that's not. All right. Okay. All right. All right. I'm never going to get out of here and get my walk in, but let's get moving because this is important. All right. So let me see. Where are we on the video time over here? Yeah, 32 minutes. Half an hour of nothingness. Let's keep moving. All right. So we are talking about transformation, and it's such an important topic because that really is the whole gist of what my therapy is. And it is why my therapy is different. Now, I always want to give credit where credit is due because as psychologists, we always learn from other people who preceded us, right? And we see what works with, all kinds of, situational factors and personality factors and events and conditions. But as you can see, if you've looked at my videos already, you can see that this therapy is very different because it really isn't dependent on your stories. And that is what makes this so different. That, and because it's not dependent on your stories, what it is it's a revelation of the lies that you believe. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to uncover lies that you believe. About what? About other people? About situations? No. Why? Because we all believe lies. We all believe lies. None of us have a perfect handle or perspective on what's going on, right? The truth for us as human beings really is a compilation, as I've talked about with assessing our judgments in last week's video and the video before that, so episode 6 and episode number 5, we really have a lot of biases when we are gathering information. So when you go to a therapist and that therapist is trying to get at some form of truth in your stories or even in your events, that's very difficult because you, as the same with me, we don't have a handle on what is really true, right? We don't have a full perspective on what is the truth. And this is a wonderful thing when you think about it on how that can actually bring individuals together, right? Look here, there we go. Because if, for example, we see a car accident, and in order to get what really happened, and let's say it's very imperative that we get to the truth, we need to collaborate on the things that we saw. And even in our collaboration, we know that we can be biased even in the way that we collaborate. And so these are all the kinds of things that we want to be aware of. But again, there's a difference in my type of therapy because I don't have to worry about uncovering all the truth to all of those perceptions and misperceptions and lies and half-baked truths and real truths and real feelings that go along with all of those real truths that also put a different spin on truth, right? Because we know that you become more responsible when you have intention behind what you do, right? So emotion also plays a part, or the impact that it has on me, right? So let's say that you didn't have great intention to harm me, but the impact really was that you really did harm me or my children in some way. Well, you end up bearing more responsibility for that. And so what is the expectation then for therapy? Is the expectation then that we are going to allocate the appropriate amount of responsibility to you and every other variable in that situation in order to get to what is real truth? It's impossible to do. It's impossible to do because, again, we also have to be really quite aware of what our biases are. And we simply aren't aware of those things. So what we do is we literally become dependent on something bigger than ourselves, some kind of, all kinds of words, change of mind, change of perception, paradigm shift. I'm going to call it transformation. And there's a reason why I'm calling my therapy transformation. Now, again, I started to say I really need to make sure that I'm giving credit where credit is due. And yeah, kind of. That's what I'll do. And that credit goes to Dr. Ed Smith and his son Joshua Smith. They are the ones, and you can see here that I have got links to their websites for resources for transformation. And they call it Transformation Prayer Ministries. So there you can see I've got my website there, healthymindbodyspirit.net, and then information on the mind there. And then you can also find information, because we're going to roll into the spirit, because real transformation really needs to acknowledge what we might call spirit. And that is not just a spiritual spirit, a Holy Spirit, although that is certainly part of the picture. And what a wonderful thing if that's true, right? If there is a Holy Spirit, and if that Holy Spirit then is kind of like a Holy Spirit for good, right? A spirit for good then, that is really there to help me out. Well, I gotta see something over here. Okay. All right, that's a little better. In order to help me out, then, a Holy Spirit that is there in order to help me out, well, no matter what that is, what if it is positive energy? What if it is the power of a positive mind? What if it's that? What if that is what transformation requires? Got to make sure it's on, because what? What if that's what transformation requires? What if transformation requires the power of a positive mind? What is that? What is that? Because we're not measuring it. In science, we're not looking at it, and therefore, if we're not looking at it, we're not measuring it either. Okay, so, but important. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit more about why we don't study transformation as we move along. All right, so let's take a look at these resources. So you can also get all of the resources for this Transformational Prayer Ministries, which is the formal training that I've gone through in order to to give this kind of therapy and do my kind of therapy. My transformational therapy, I call it therapy, and Transformational Prayer Ministries is not a therapy. It is really discipleship is what it is. And so because of my background and because of my training, I have got a therapeutic spin on it, which also has to do, again, with the mind and the body as well. And so not just a spiritual kind of transformation that we focus on. And it's not because I don't believe that that is where the power is. It just is that that there are many different beliefs, and there are many different pathways that I believe that we can get to real transformation, as we're going to take a look at later on when I take a look at some examples of transformation. If you want the free materials there and these are all the training materials, and by the way, not only are there training materials for this, but on a regular basis, and I attend typically the session that is on Mondays at 8 o'clock. I say typically, I started going again. But anyway, so there are sessions, live sessions, where you can get your questions answered. So there is a 20-week training for this. And why would you go through training? Well, you could go through training in order to save yourself a whole lot of money, right? And not only that, but you can get started through free transformational therapy. No, free transformational prayer ministries, free TPM, through and there is a link over there's a link over there as well. The last link there is if you wanted to get started. So why would you take a 20-week course and look at transformational prayer TPM for 20 weeks? Well, this is the foundation for real transformation. I offer you quite a few other things. I offer you an expertise in psychology, and I also offer you an expertise in nutrition as well, because you cannot have a healthy mind and spirit without a healthy body, and that's what I say all the time. It's the reason why this Healthy New You in 2022 had part 1, which was on healthy body. But the TPM gives you sources fully if you want to approach this kind of healing process for you. If you want to approach this kind of healing process in a thoroughly spiritual direction, there's some free resources for you so that you can do that. In either case, what you are doing is you are learning strategies. If you go through therapy with me, or if you go through the free TPM ministries, or if you just utilize the resources and you read them, all of those will help you with your strategies, because you need to be learning these strategies so that you aren't dependent on therapy for the rest of your life. And you're not dependent on pharmaceuticals either, because again, we know that they may be necessary, but they don't work like your body does. Look at a picture of that, right? Look at a picture of a pharmaceutical. Look at that picture. It's full of lines and circles, right? Doesn't look like anything natural to me. Okay. Moving on. I keep pressing upon individuals these important Pfizer data links. From what I understand, there are some new data dumps that have been more recent, and these data dumps have some more interesting new information. What we need to do is we need to make sure that we are appreciating scientific data that is free to us, and that is being discussed openly. Remember, we are intelligent individuals that can dismiss those pieces of information that are not scientific. The problem is that we were being asked to dismiss information that actually is scientific. And that's a real problem, because what that does is it leads to no transparency in science, which leads to this mistrust that we have in science. So it is really no great big mystery, neither science nor what I'm saying, that is the mistrust, and this leading to mistrust in science. This really is no big mystery, scientists. In fact, I'm quite sure that you have it down pat from propaganda that was psychologically studied, and we're going to talk more about that because there's some really, tough stuff to swallow as far as ethical concerns all the way historically through medicine, including psychiatry and psychology. So some really big concerns, and what we need to do is be appreciative and take advantage of the free scientific data that is out there. Don't be going to those crap websites. You want to try and understand the information from a scientific perspective. It is the only way that you're going to be able to argue with science and with scientists. And that's what we need to do. Because information is knowledge, information is power, and that's what we need, right? And that's really what we need in order to stand up to some of the big money and big corporate interests that we see in big farm and we see in big ag as well. So coming at it us from all of our dependencies as a human being, right? And eyeballs up, take a look at our water. So what I'm saying is this, is that if you narrate a scenario that says our healthcare has to go in this direction, that this is something that's life-saving for me, right? It's life-saving and I'm dependent. Now we have it in the hands of people who can charge whatever they want to charge. That's simply not ethical. In the hands of private business, that simply isn't ethical. And it is not, then it is taking away my opportunities for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? So again, look for this complicating or taking away some of these life dependent resources, like our health care, like our food. And that's why I said, take a look next at water, right? I think that there were quite a few comments about how, the water's not running very well. Take a look at who might want to be privatizing another right that we have that is part of our need, part of our survival, right? Part necessary for our survival. Okay, all right, moving on. So, up to our agenda, 45 minutes, almost an hour into this. Of course, most of that, 30 minutes was whatever. Anyway, okay, so today's agenda, we're going to talk about what is transformation, where do we see examples of transformation, why don't we study transformation, how is transformation achieved, and is transformation long lasting? So let's get down to some of the nuts and bolts about transformation. So the first question, the first thing on the agenda there is, what is transformation? And I have a list of things that are qualifiers for that help us define and think about them differently than some other concepts. So let's just for a second, let's take a look at some other concepts. So is transformation, for example, similar to changing of your mind, right? Changing of your mind. Is that what transformation is? Okay. Or is transformation a paradigm shift? And when I did get that picture, I got that picture from an open source there, the Frank and Ernest open source. I think that there might be copyright issues there, that I might need to take that out of there for copyright issues. But I did get it from an open source when I got it. And I love that picture. And that picture is, and I am giving credit, and I am using this for educational purposes as well. But I want to say it, regarding paradigm shifts, you can see what a paradigm shift is. It's a complete change in your perspective, right? In your viewpoint. So, and this usually does happen relatively quickly. And so, when we talk about paradigm shifts really are very close to transformation. But what are some of the things that are different about paradigm shifts or changing of my mind that really is not quite transformation? All right, so let's take a look at that. So when we're talking about transformation, first of all, transformation is effortless. Transformation is effortless. And we could say that that typically paradigm shifts happen suddenly, and that those paradigm shifts then can be often effortless. So that is similar between transformation and paradigm shifts. We do not have to work at it. Somehow, some way, it happens suddenly. Okay, well, that kind of really gives us pause for thought, doesn't it? Why aren't we studying things like transformation more often if we have such a desire and often a great need for change, right? That a lot of us, and if you looked at my little blip that I have underneath, or that I actually put it in LinkedIn, for example, a lot of us are looking to change things. We're looking to reduce our reaction to stress, right? So that we are looking to, like, so that we don't yell at our kids as much. So we're looking to change our levels of patience. Some of us are looking to change addictions, right? Like drinking or smoking. And those addictions, when we truly are addicted, are some of the most difficult things for us to change. So some of us are looking at changing our depression, right? So we are looking at changing perspectives so that maybe we look at things in more positive ways, or that we end up being more grateful, right? There was a psychiatrist that I heard, and I'm not sure who said it, but it was in passing, but a psychiatrist that said that he believed, and it was just a belief that he had, that if we were able to get rid of the guilt somehow of all of those that are in individuals that are in psychiatric wards, so severe psychiatric dysfunction, right? So mental illness, some real great psychological mental illness. If we would be able to get rid of, if we got rid of the guilt, that this psychiatrist said that about 75% of those that are in psychiatric wards would be able to walk out tomorrow. Sorry, I'm stumbling all over that. But that is really important to think about, right? So some of us may want to change our perspective so that we no longer feel guilt. Some of us may have experienced abuse, and we think about that. Or others of us ruminate about all kinds of things, right? It may be something as traumatic as abuse. It may be something as traumatic as experiencing a catastrophe, right? And so what do we want to do? We want to leave that space in our minds, right? We want to leave that space in our minds. So there is an aspect here that we're talking about that is related to our minds. So is transformation simply changing our minds? Some of us try and purposefully leave these aspects of our minds, right? So what is different then about transformation? Well, we said it's not purposeful. We don't, it's effortless, is what we said. And if it's effortless, that means that I really don't have to try and see things differently, get out of my depression, figure out strategies, within reason. We do have to figure out strategies. We do. But the actual transformation is effortless. So we really want to understand that, don't we? Right? Because if we want to make a change in any one of those areas, maybe you feel that you're lazy and you want to make a change so that you work harder. Or maybe you feel that you're too dependent on your parents or your spouse or your children, and you want to make a change to become more independent. Or maybe you want to make a change in your knowledge. You don't feel that you are as intelligent as other people. And so maybe you want to make a change in your knowledge base. And so what do you do to do that, right? You take steps and you make efforts to learn more, go to school, save money, right, in order for you to be able to get that knowledge. But all of those are steps for change. So change is effortful. Paradigm shifts and transformation are effortless. I gotta plug in, so give me just a sec. Okay. Well, that may have seemed like an inordinately long time, but you also may have heard my microphone fall. Oh, that was not good. So hopefully, as I moved this, it just doesn't end up clamping like it should. Okay, let's see if we can't do this just a little bit better, shall we? Okay, so moving on. What do we see? We see that transformation is effortless, right? She constantly is adjusting the lighting. How about that? Okay. Let's get our minds back in where we were. All right, because I just had equipment failure all over the place. Probably ended my stream as well. But I am on. Big giant microphone in my face too. Table doing this. Okay, all right, so let's blow this back up again and let's go. So we've talked about transformation is effortless, and we've compared that with changing our minds and paradigm shifts. Another thing about transformation is this: it doesn't matter about your past. And this is so interesting about transformation. In fact, we see transformation happen with a lot of different individuals who really are in their last on their last leg. They are really in hopeless conditions, and we end up seeing real transformation. So we can see real transformation in what is considered to be very desperate conditions, for example, right? Okay, and so if that is the case, that even the most desperate people can be transformed, and it is the case, so again, real transformation can occur with the worst alcoholic. Real transformation can occur with the worst criminal. And so isn't that wonderful? Or the people who have had the worst behavior. We know that real transformation can occur with these individuals. And we are not talking about some prosperity church that's trying to get money and is creating these whatever kinds of scenes there. That's not what we're talking about. What we are talking about is that you end up finding real peace, that you are able to let go of the guilt and shame that goes along with the lies we believe. That's why this is so critical. Transformation is so critical because what you're doing is, as with all therapy, you're getting down to the root of the problem. But with not often, like most therapies, this therapy focuses on you and the lies you believe, not all of those other things that are out of your control, right? So that's what makes this really a wonderful type of strategy. It's a wonderful type of a spiritual discipleship, which is what they call it at TPM. It's a wonderful kind of transformation therapy that I offer you. Okay, so again, when do we see individuals who are coming to terms with the worst of their behavior? Those are the people who end up with real transformation. We see it. We want to tell stories about it, but we don't tell enough stories about them because we feel that they're not scientific. And that kind of makes me jump ahead a little bit in my topics. Let's look a little bit more about what transformation is. Transformation is also long lasting. When we change, right, sometimes we can change for a long period of time. But a lot of times, and this is what I found, and many other therapists and many other individuals who are in counseling or do any kind of spiritual discipleship, they find that the change is not long lasting, right? I may be able to give up pornography, but that is really hard, isn't it? That is really difficult for people to give up, just like smoking is, just like drinking, alcoholism is. These are all things that individuals desire real great transformation, right? That they can't do it of their efforts and of their own will. And if something doesn't change, then they'll end up giving up, right? And that's really what we've been talking about. This lack of control and ways that we feel like we can get more control over our lives again. That's what we want to focus on. But Dr. Feravich, you're saying real transformation isn't about our strategies, isn't about our overcoming, isn't about our doing. It's not. But there are certain things that we do have to do in order to get ourselves aligned. An alcoholic has to be ready to give up alcohol in order for them, the 12 steps to work. Part of that means that they have to be willing to engage in those 12 steps as well. There needs to be real change that accompanies this, but transformation is different. It is long lasting. Again, like I started to say, we may be able to give something up of our will, but how long can we do that for? And what's the difference? And scientifically, shouldn't we be studying this instead of just shoving pharmaceuticals down our throat, right? Shouldn't we be studying what it is that people are doing that really give them real, long-lasting change? How did they transform? What were those ingredients, right? Isn't that important? Even if it doesn't happen for everybody, even if it happens for 10% of the people, if they can get transformation, isn't it worth it? Now, I'm not saying that it only happens with 10% of the people. That's not what I'm saying. I've seen real transformation happen in all kinds of ways, shapes, and forms, really. Slow processes, fast processes, very interesting. But it happens, and it's real, and it's long-lasting, and when it occurs, it's effortless. Okay, and so that is a difference then with a paradigm shift. That a paradigm shift, sometimes it can be long lasting, but sometimes it's not long lasting. Sometimes we go back, but usually paradigm shifts can be long lasting. Paradigm shifts can be effortless and usually are effortless. Paradigm shifts, though, your past matters. And why does your past matter in paradigm shifts? Because paradigm shifts are a change in your observation, a change in the way that you see things. And so paradigm shifts really are cognitive functions is what they are. They are a reframing, we call it in psychology. So it is a learning or cognitive function. And so it can be long-lasting. It can be long-lasting because it is a cognitive function. And we have changed. There are times where we have significantly changed our thinking for the good, right? Or for the long term. Hopefully it is, and typically it usually is. When we have those kinds of revelations, they usually are for the better. They really do are for the promotion of growth and change. Okay, which is what this is all about, right? Are we experiencing real growth? Are we experiencing real change? Growth and change is also transformation. And then the last thing there, though, is that it occurs deep within the heart. Real transformation isn't something that occurs because we've changed only our thinking. We can change our thinking. Often that is what a paradigm shift is that it is a change in our thinking. And that thinking can be long lasting, right? But sometimes it isn't about changing our thinking that actually needs to be done. Sometimes what needs to be done sometimes we already know in our heads what needs to be done. And then what? When we know already, I want to try and shift the light over here, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. The sun is shifting. Obviously. I feel like there's a line right across me. But I think that's the reflection. Okay, All right, so paradigm shifts are cognitive, and this is the reason why I also say why cognitive behavioral therapy isn't always long lasting, because we do know in our minds what we should be doing differently. However, we haven't replaced our heart's beliefs, what is deep within our hearts that we believe, again, well, it can be, we can think about that from a lot of different ways, right? That if we think that an event happened in any way, and there is evidence to the contrary. We see this happen all the time right now with all of these conspiracy theories that we have. We can have all kinds of evidence to the contrary. How is it that we can have pedophiles in Congress, right, and nobody's getting arrested? How does that happen? Right. I mean, the president of the United States couldn't even stop, or couldn't even convince the justices to vote in ways that would overturn the election, yet somehow we've got a pedophile ring that somehow half of America is aware of, but nobody's getting arrested for it. How does that happen, right? No evidence for certain things, right? And no matter how much we can convince people in their minds that there isn't the evidence for this, that people have led, for example, upstanding lives, possibly, right? That so they wouldn't, and people, relatives would have turned somebody in like that, whatever it is, right? But what happens? That against all logic, individuals still believe something else, right? They believe that 9/11 was done by our own government. They believe, right? And there are all kinds of things. And what ends up happening is that without any effort to make things transparent and things people understand what is truth, and not exclude people from conversations who have had a lifetime of knowledge and work in a particular discipline, and when they are excluded from the conversations, well, what we end up doing there is we can't expect people to be able to simply rely on their cognitions then, because you have allowed a lot of disbelief and misinformation to creep in to what people are calling science. You have disallowed for real conversations about what is science. We don't have access to a lot of the science, and it is being skewed in the interest of big money, basically, in the interest of money. It's been skewed. So we can't expect people to not go on their heart beliefs as opposed to their cognitive skills when you have taught them that the information you give them is spotty at best, is unreliable, right? You can't expect them to rely on the information you give them when the information is proven time and time again to not be the whole story, to be skewed and unreliable. Okay, all right. So that answers question number 1. What are some examples of transformation, or where we've seen transformation? Well, some of the most basic levels that we've been studying in psychology is under the area of what is called terror management system, and this terror management theory. And this terror management theory was actually refined during and because of 9/11. And so this was a result of studies that they had done after 9/11. And these studies that were done had to do with how do people come together. So we see that when there is tragedy, this is going to be so long. So we see that when there is tragedy, what individuals have a tendency to do, a natural inclination is to create what we know to be, or what we call in psychology, in groups and out groups. There we go. And when we form these in groups and out groups, what we end up finding is that our in groups, what we do to create these in groups is we solidify our values. All right, so we sort of make clear our values. So again, this study was done after 9/11, or I'm sorry, the theory was refined and really grew legs after 9/11. And the idea again here is we saw that after 9/11, the in groups were all Americans and the out groups were foreigners, right? The out groups were foreigners. And what we ended up doing then is clinging to our American values. And so that's one of the outcomes of this idea of terror management theory is that when we are faced with a catastrophe, one of the things that brings us together is our values that we have. But what also ends up occurring is that we end up creating very severe lines for out groups as well. If you don't have my values, then there's punishment, right? Then there are consequences when you don't have my values. And we saw that, and we have seen that, more recently when we've seen with this COVID, and we have seen racist behaviors and discrimination and racist behaviors towards Asians, right? Why? What ends up happening is we cling to our values, and that's what terror management theory teaches us. Okay, so that's one example of transformation. But it's a very human example of transformation, and very often we think of more metaphysical examples of transformation, right? So psychology takes a look at the science and really takes a look at those things that we can observe, right? So those things that speak to our senses so that we can understand and we can measure, but very often it's limited, especially if we're talking about something that may be metaphysical, right? That creates some kind of an energy for change. All right, so let's take a look at a few more examples of this, and we've talked about some of them. All right, so but we haven't talked about near-death experiences. Near-death experiences can create a transformation. This is a great example of individuals who have paradigm shifts. So paradigm shifts can include, with near-death experiences, reprioritizing. Again, this clinging to values, but then a reprioritizing of values, right? And there also may be this existential or this sort of metaphysical aspect to it as well, if individuals feel that there was a spiritual element, a higher power kind of element, sort of almost a coming to Jesus kind of meeting, right? When they had this near-death experience, not even a kind of, right? It's a feel of that you do feel that you had this coming to Jesus meeting. Another example of transformation would be Alcoholics Anonymous. And I might encourage you, if you really aren't convinced about transformation and you want to take a look at different examples of transformation, I might encourage you to go to YouTube videos and take a look at some AA speakers and how they talk about the words that I often use is depraved, how depraved their life was and used to be. And that has a depravity, really is, remember, that is filled with wickedness. And alcoholics will tell you this, that because they talk about what are character defects, and this is their strategy and part of their steps to be able to uncover things that they can change, and those things that they are, and those are things that they can control. So that's a great strategy. So again, uncovering these character defects, which we talk a lot in transformational therapy about, and TPM, about uncovering the onion, right? Layers that when we discover this, it's layers of an onion. Now, I also always talk about my type of therapy as being shorter therapy. It's shorter therapy. You could say, how could it be shorter therapy when we're uncovering all these layers to this onion? And it ends up being shorter therapy in the long run because you learn the strategies for uncovering the onion yourself. And also, as we've said, we get directly to the crux of the problem. Right? We get to what the real issue is when we're talking about transformation. We get to two lies, right? Two lies. And so they're simple issues, but they are real issues, and very often they're issues that are very difficult to get to. I'm going to adjust again. Okay. Let's go on. Some other examples. The last example that I have there for you is, of course, transformational therapy. Now, what is a little bit different about transformational therapy than what we see there with these other things? Well, there is a process, right? Transformation is a process. So the process has to be something that you are learning and something that you are willing to explore as well. So there are cognitive strategies that need, or actually cognitive paradigm shifts that likely need to occur for real transformation to occur. There are also strategies, so behavioral changes that you engage in order to walk yourself out of these kinds of whatever it is, right? Addictions, fear that you have, triggers that we've talked about, right? So there are behaviors, so there are cognitions. I have to have myself sort of ready to explore and take a journey. There are behaviors that are involved, so that I have to go step by step and utilize these strategies. If you talk to individuals who have gone through AA and the 12 steps, they'll say that you will not be successful unless you go through the 12 steps. And it's hard to explain the reasons why you are successful when you go through those 12 steps. Nevertheless, we know that individuals are successful when they go through the 12 steps. So we have, again, individuals who really are very often on their last lifeline. So I would encourage you, if you want to see that kind of transformation, again, go to YouTube and see some of the AA speakers. They're humorous. They are self-deprecating, which helps us a lot, right? I think they are very aware of their shortcomings. And what wonderful, and I become very aware of their achievements because of that. Okay. So why don't we study more of transformation? Well, real transformation. Well, there's a lot of reasons why we don't study transformation. And one of the reasons is because in the 1930s, we took a turn towards medicine as opposed to taking a look at therapies and natural approaches to better health, for example, both mental and physical health. So we began to take a look at, again, pharmaceuticals and therapies such as vitamins and minerals fell to the wayside, or even behavioral therapy. So what is our primary approach to health? Well, it's a medical model is what we have. We have a medical model, which is our approach to health. And so what does that mean? Well, what that means is that the very first suggestion that the medical model gives you is medicine. So we shouldn't expect that a medical model is going to give us alternative therapies. So that's one of the reasons why we don't study transformation. But in this medical model, and in taking this turn in this medical model, what they then began framing as quackery was other scientific endeavors that were looking at, for example, energy. And now we know that there are some benefits, and certainly we know that we should be paying more attention to other options for our health care and other possible therapies. But again, because this is big business and a lot of money, other therapies have been framed as being false. And if we don't have science who's willing to investigate other models other than the medical model, well, you can expect that they will continue then to make money on the drugs that they give us, the legal drugs that they give us and encourage us to take, right? All right, so that's another reason. So in the 1930s, we had this turn away from science that was discovering more scientific methods and information regarding energy. Because remember, that is in a way what we are talking about. We can talk about it in terms of, for example, a memory that you have, right? In a paradigm shift, what occurs there? A memory comes up. What is that? What does it create, right? I could end up getting feelings when I am simply thinking about somebody that I love very much, and increased dopamine and oxytocin. What is that that's in the thought? What is it? And let's go even why don't we study transformation? That's also because there is this metaphysical aspect to it. And science doesn't like something that can't be explained with our five senses. Well, we know that there are many things that can be explained with our five senses that we can't see, like the wind, for example. We see the effects of it, but we don't actually see the wind, right? And what about the fear that we feel when we are walking down a dark street? Is that just occurring because of memories? Is that all that is brain chemical changes? Is that it? What's the difference between having sex with somebody that you love very much and sex with somebody who is just very casual, or even a stranger? What is that chemistry that we find in those really deep emotions, right? Those are hard things to talk about scientifically. And so scientists end up putting those things into a category of crazy people stuff. And they simply are not. What about, and again, now we're starting to get beyond metaphysical, slightly metaphysical, and even into the spiritual realm, which is another reason why scientists don't study transformation, because they want to appear scientific, and talking about spiritual things don't appear very scientific. They ignore things like Discovery Institute, for example, that is studying the scientific foundations behind intelligent design in the most scientific ways. But these are characterized as being unscientific. And when they're characterized as being unscientific, people try to stay away from them if they are scientists. But how about studying something like laying of hands? Now, we have known for millennia that individuals, as part of healing, have a practice of laying hands in an effort to help heal. What is in the healing power of laying hands? We also call when we have groups of individuals that get together. What is like after 9/11? What is the power of that group, right? What is the power of that group? And we call that a collective, it's not coming to me right now. It is collective hope. Collective hope. What is that power when you get a lot of people together and they have the power to make something change? We call that collective hope. And look at those pharmaceutical companies, because I think that's what they're robbing you of. I think they are robbing people of their collective hope by trying to by giving them pharmaceuticals that really are messing with their brains and numbing, and getting you addicted, by the way, as well. So why don't we study transformation? Because it's not in big money's best interest to do it. And also, people are afraid. They're afraid of metaphysical things that they can't explain and understand. But what an interesting thing, and what fertile ground for us to be studying as well. All right, moving on. I think this might be my last slide. So, no, it's not. I have one more. How is transformation achieved? So, transformation, I've already covered this in many ways, but this is a refining. And I've said that, and I've said it and described it as a refining and fire. That individuals who transform, for example, from alcoholics to quitting drinking, remember, a lot of times these individuals have been lying and conniving and sneaking their way and making promises that they can't keep all the way through their lives. How could they make that big transformation? Well, transformation is achieved through, as we've said, it is achieved through steps that we take, so behavioral component. It is achieved through a cognitive component as well. So we do want to try and change our thinking. We need to be prepared to take a journey, is what we need to be prepared to do. We may, in the case of alcoholics in AA, we may need to take a good long look, which takes weeks and even sometimes months of investigation of our character defects. Something that I think that whether or not you're an addict or not, all of us should be looking at. It is such a healthy way to journey through life. In transformational therapy, what we do is we look even to a higher power. No, we look to a higher power. But it is a Holy Spirit driven power. It is a Holy Spirit driven power. Holy as in sanctified, as in we want to keep the practice pure, is what we want to try and do. One of the things that this is just coming to me now. We'll see how this works out, if I can explain this to you or not. One of the things that has come to my mind in some of my, education and things more recently has been about how God cannot be around unholiness. And you think about what does that mean? He can't be around unholiness. Really? He can't be around, you created us and we are pretty unholy, so you're saying you can't be around me. And one of the ways that I thought about this is if you were to use, for example, tell your grandmother, for example, who was let's say is a very pure Christian woman, let's just say, right? Very pure woman, pure in thought, pure in deed. You would think of her as almost angelic, right? That going directly to heaven. Would you think about talking to her about some sexual perversion escapade that you experienced and all of the details that go along with that. Would you think about doing that and telling that to this pure grandmother of yours? No. And in some ways, what you would do is you would tarnish her, right? In the same way that a child who is sexually abused is no longer naive, right? So, how is transformation achieved? It really is this kind of purifying, this kind of real hard look that you take a look at yourself in order to, from a transformational therapy or a transformational ministries, that is a cleansing. It's a cleansing. Why? Because those addictions, because no matter what they are, because those habits that create triggers in us, they are maladaptive is what they are. They are unhealthy. They create an unhealthy mind and an unhealthy body. And so that is a purification. And how do we purify? We purify through a journey. Through a journey that looks at, takes a hard look at where your beliefs that you are unworthy or that you are stuck, taking a long look at where those beliefs came from. And actually, I say long look. No, it's a journey. It's a journey. It's a process. With me, it doesn't have to be a long look, though. With me, we could do it really sometimes just like that. Sometimes it's effortless. Sometimes when those stars align, we can get some real healing power. One more slide here that I want you to look at. Is transformation long lasting? I want you to take a look at this graph that I have here for you, or this flow chart that I have here for you. And what this is demonstrating from a psychological perspective and using psychological research about how long lasting change might be. And so what we see here is we have got transfer when we want change. All right, so this is effortful change. How do we create change that's long lasting? But what we are really talking about here is it takes an effort. So here, this is research in parenting strategies, and parenting strategies that give children, for example, large rewards or over-the-top punishments. So you end up becoming impatient. You've got stress from the day, right? And you get triggered by your child's behavior. So when this is the case, what do you end up doing? You end up this is giving your child an external justification for their behavior. Why do they behave good? It is because not of something inside their heart belief, but it is something outside of them, like I get a big reward or I avoid severe punishment. So the transformation is temporary because it doesn't come from within. When we give individuals small rewards and mild punishments, so mild corrections is what we are doing, right? And encouragement that does not end up what's the word that I'm trying to find? The word, and it doesn't end up, I'm going to end up having to put that word in a little bit later on. But really, the word is thinking of is like flooding them, right? Overwhelming them with whatever it is, gifts, right? so that they become later on entitled, thinking that that is the way everybody is supposed to treat them, right? No, what we need to do is we need to say that my rewards are going to come from what? Doing what is good for me, which happens to be healthy for me, and which also happens to be good for everybody. What does that end up resulting in? It ends up resulting in heart changes, internal changes. And those internal changes are real internal beliefs. And those internal beliefs, when they are guided, changed over time, this is not effortless. We're not talking about that. What we're talking about is that when it's internal, it is long-lasting change. So, psychologically speaking, we need to make internal changes. But with our internal beliefs, transformation is about those internal beliefs that are all about those two lies. I'm not worthy. I am stuck. Transformation is all about those two lies. But remember, our most maladaptive, dysfunctional behaviors are also about those two lies, because those are our triggers. They are indicating, or triggers are indicating lies. And so they're changing. This therapy changes your heart belief, and that's the reason why the change is long lasting. All right, folks, thank you so much for joining me. And we are going to talk next week. We're going to talk about an introduction to healthy spirit. Part 1 was healthy body. Part 2 was healthy mind. Part 3 is healthy spirit. And so join me next Sunday for that introduction, where we begin to talk more about the spiritual features of, let me look at my hair in case I want to take a picture later on, where we talk about the spiritual features of real transformation. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you here next Sunday. This is Dr. Annette Feravich with Healthy Mind, Body, Spirit, and you can find me on the internet at www.healthymindbodyspirit.net. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or you would like to know more about transformational therapy, you can visit me on the internet, or you can email me at Dr. Feravich, F as in Frank, E-R-A, V as in Victor, I-C-H, at healthymindbodyspirit.net. So email me your questions or concerns, or if you'd like to talk to me about and get a free consultation booked. Let me see here. What else did I want to say? Oh, yes. And then also, please help me out here and share my videos. Is this it? Please share my videos, like my videos, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dr. Annette Feravich, and share my videos. I said that, but share my videos, please, so that this word gets out, especially if what I'm saying resonates with you, that we need science to move in a different direction, that we need our food to be moving in a different direction. We need our healthcare to be moving in a different direction, and our health to be moving in a different direction. Remember, prior to COVID-19, we had SARS-1, we had the bird flu, we had the swine flu, we had MRSA, which was bacteria. I think it was MRSA. We had the AIDS epidemic. We had a lot of things, and nothing was mishandled and created. And how do we know it was mishandled? We know it was mishandled because we have just unbelievably declining, unbelievably plummeting healthcare numbers. So that's how we know that it was mishandled. All right, so if you, again, like what I have to say, please make sure that you share these videos and subscribe and like them, and join me here on Sundays at, I don't even know, sometime in the early evening. All right, that's it. Thanks. Take care.